everyone. Welcome to the Couch Classics. Stiks here with another episode of Couch Comics. Today I'm going to be talking about comics for noobs. Got some feedback on my last video. Everyone really liked it, but a lot of people have no idea where to start when it comes to collecting comics and just getting into the hobby in general. And though I am far from an expert myself, I went through this a few years back when I first started. So I'm just going to go over a few of the finer details, get you started on the road to collecting, discovering, caring for, etc., etc. A few of the things about comics that I wasn't aware of until I started, and maybe you are, is that comic books are kind of like baseball cards, where they have a grading system based on their quality, how well they've been cared for, bent pages, crinkled edges, scuff marks, water damage, all that kind of fun stuff. So a comic book, the collectability, the value of it is much higher if it's been taken care of and is in good condition. So if you are going to be collecting comics in any way, shape, or form, I would suggest, plead with you to take care of it, please. You know, it doesn't take a whole lot to treat things kindly, and it'll pay off in the future. You know, someday you're done with comics, you got over that, you've moved on from these childlike things. You might have a big pile of comic books that are worth quite a bit of money because you took care of them. So someday you could pay for your college or your kids' college or buy a new car or whatever else. Doesn't matter. In any case, take care of them. They are collectibles and they will continue to do so and be so well into the future. That being said, let's tear into it. Made a few notes that I go over these points, so I'll be glancing down at that from time to time. I just wanted to cover everything that I could think of, the questions that I had when I first started. So, obviously, the first thing is, you know, where do you start? What is all this nonsense with comic books? It's all over the place. There's all sorts of different kinds and styles and whatever, and I can't make a lot of suggestions on what you're going to pursue, what you're going to like. I'm sure there's plenty of episodes out there where people are going to tell you, you know, go start with such and such episode and read through this timeline and then go back to this and go to the other. And honestly, I don't know. It's so much information that I just got information overload, and I just wanted to jump in and start enjoying stuff. So if you like Superman, jump in and start reading Superman. If you like, you know, Batman or Spider-Man or Archie comics, whatever it is, wherever you want to start, hop in, go with that, and roll. A few things that I'm going to tell you that'll help things go a little smoothly for you. Hopefully get you into the mood and keep you going. There's a few different types of comics, I guess, in the way that they're displayed and sold and whatever. One of the big things is there's Western and Eastern comics. Now, Eastern comics to me is just anything in manga format. Usually I end up with these. The singles tend to come out in magazines and whatnot. Shonen Jump is one that they started bringing over here to America. There's a few more. They're really popular over in Japan. If you're capable of reading kanji and whatnot, you could surely jump into that. But for me, it's on the bookshelves at the stores. You can pick up these little graphic novels. It's a trade paperback or whatever, if you want to call it that, and it's just got simple, straightforward. You've got usually black and white images on the inside, maybe a couple pages of color, and then the story goes on from there. And you can collect volumes of this, and usually it's a handful of single releases, all jammed together in a nice tidy little package. It makes it a lot easier. For example, if you're trying to collect singles that are rare, way out of print, hard to find, really expensive, if you're a hardcore collector, absolutely go for it. That's cool. You won't hear me complain about trying to pick up rare singles at all, but it can be really expensive and they can be really hard to find. So an excellent way of collecting these rare and hard to find things is going and finding the graphic novels. Now, Western comics are the Batmans and Supermans and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's the same thing. You've got single releases that came out. This is usually a story arc is contained within this, so it'll be a handful of different singles jammed together in a single book. And like I said, some people call them trade paperbacks. I like to just call them graphic novels, but you end up this way getting out of print, out of date material that is generally more expensive and hard to find for a lot cheaper price. You can get, I don't know, $12 to $15 usually for these smaller ones. And then you end up with storylines that are all grouped together, so you can read entire plots all at once and have some fun with that. We'll get into that in a minute. So there's different publishers, obviously, but then there's obviously just the singles. When you end up with a single release, it's just a small magazine format, usually $4 to $5, depends on where you're at. Used to be a lot cheaper, but prices have gone up in time. And then these are the ones that are highly collectible, worth quite a bit of money on specific issues and whatnot, but they are much harder to find. So, that being said, let's start into this. Where do you find them? Bookstores, if you happen to have one nearby. The bookstore is usually a safe bet. Barnes & Noble, used to be Borders, things like that, where you can go in and get the graphic novels and the manga. So if you're into, One Piece and all that kind of stuff, you'll have a whole bunch of different manga that are piled up, all different kinds. You can browse through, look at them, feel them with your own two hands before purchasing, which is pretty sweet, and then go through and find a lot of really good stuff, sometimes that you wouldn't normally see if you're just cruising around online, checking out forums or whatever. Limited selection sometimes, but usually you can order stuff through there. And most bookstores that I've been in do not have singles. Some of the places that I started picking up singles, Hastings was really good for keeping a good selection of comics and even some back order stuff, so you can get some older issues if you're looking for something specific. But usually they had a good selection of the newer stuff. I started collecting DC's New 52 when they came out with that, so I had a collection of those for a while. But that was when I lived in Texas. After I moved out of there, I didn't have Hastings anymore, and nowhere around that I could find any of these things. Sometimes you'll see them in big box stores like Walmart, Target, things like that. You'll occasionally find some singles in the book section. Grocery stores is another place where you'll find some of the newer stuff. Gas stations, convenience stores, things like that. It's not extremely reliable, and if you're really hardcore into it, I would suggest getting online, finding a good site for ordering back issues, and also if you're hardcore into it, you can get on their subscriptions and say you want every episode of Superman that's coming out, then you can get it and they will just ship it to your door. One of the best ones that I found for that, obviously this isn't like, go here and there's nowhere else, but this is one that I really enjoyed, was mycomicshop.com. I wrote it down so I'd remember. mycomicshop.com has really good selection. They've got a lot of the older stuff, and their inventory is always changing because they actually will buy comics also, and they do a really good job on purchasing and whatnot. I mean, they are in business and they're trying to turn a profit, but they're not going to screw you over. They give you fair market value for anything that you're trying to sell, and they're really, really good about that. Customer service is excellent. I mean, they will call you on the phone and talk to you in person, make sure that everything is okay, that their offer is sound, that you're okay with the offer, and they will not pressure you in any way. One thing that I really liked is I ordered a few back issues, and they ship it sandwiched in between cardboard, so it's nice and stiff, and then wrapped in plastic, so you're not going to get dirty and destroyed in shipment. They take really good care of it and make sure that you get a high quality product. And if something does happen in shipping, you can send them a picture, let them know, and they'll be on the phone with you, and you can work things out really well. So yeah, get out there, start collecting, find something that you enjoy or you think you might enjoy, browse through things. If you're lucky, you'll have a comic book store around, and then you have like-minded people. You can just go in, geek out, just tell them straight up, I'm a noob, I know nothing. Teach me, beg them, teach me, master. And you can get in with like-minded people. They can steer you in the right direction, tell you about cool stuff that you maybe never heard about or never would find without them. So that's awesome. You got a nice community of people that does that. They have a show on AMC, I think, Comic Book Men. These guys are sweet guys. They're awesome. They're hilarious, and they go through a bunch of different stuff. And you can learn a ton from just watching through that stuff. I haven't seen a lot of episodes, but the few that I've seen have been really awesome, informative, and of course enjoyable. So, once you start collecting, I said take care of them. With singles, box or bag and board, all of them. A lot of places will sell these. You can get them online, obviously, or you can just make it yourself. But this is a pretty cheap way to do it. You get a heavy cardstock. It's nice and stiff. It's cut to the right size. Generally, you get a few different sizes depending on what kind of comics you're getting. You get into the older stuff, and they used to be bigger, and over the years they've diminished in size but increased in quality. And then just a sleeve. It's a bag, so you can slide your backer board in there, and then slide the comic in, and then you've got nice protective coating, keeps all the dust and everything off. You can tape it down nice and stiff so the corners aren't going to get bent and scraped and scuffed and all that kind of fun stuff. And then you have something where you can put this in a box and keep it safe for years and years and years. When you pull it out, it's still like new. Also, when you're reading, wash your hands before you read. Just a suggestion. A lot of people go crazy. They even get into the oils on their hands, especially if you're getting older stuff. Get a pair of rubber gloves. Take care of them. You don't want to diminish the quality of what you've got, especially if it's an older one. I got a few older ones here. This one's actually from Germany. My uncle had a few comics back in the 80s. He had a pile of them. My uncle in Germany sent them to me when he heard I was into comics, so that was pretty sweet of him. But you have all these different titles, different arts, and all that kind of fun stuff, different productions. These are DC. The Spider-Man from Germany was one of them. This is one of the New 52 Detective Comics. Just look at that cover art. It just looks so exciting and badass. Totally awesome. I love collecting it just for the artwork value. Like I said, there's different sizes and different things like that. Usually with time period. So the older you go, the larger they get, but not necessarily. A lot of different production companies have different sizes and different standards for what they do. This one is another one from Germany I got from my uncle. Sent to me, and this is like the size of a magazine. You can see it's a few inches larger around and on the side here than the more common sizes. But it's awesome. Tons of stuff to get out there and find and collect for and check out, and there's tons of fan fiction and stuff like that. Graphic novels, singles. What else we got? Publishers. Right. So there's in Japan there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm really not up to date on all that at all. I'm not the go-to source for that information, but here in America there's probably a couple hundred different publishers that do all different kinds of storylines and things like that, and will publish, and a lot of up-and-coming comic book artists and stuff like that can get into these smaller publishing companies and get their work out there and get it distributed. There's actually a lot of people that are just doing self-publishing on comic books now, and with social media, you got Facebook and YouTube and all this kind of stuff, you can really get your word out there to people, and they can see your artwork and whatnot. Whereas, 10, 15 years ago, you just couldn't do that. You didn't have that. You had to pay somebody, thousands of dollars to market your book or get in with a publishing company. So you have a lot of different little small publications that pop up, and I'm not going to go through and list them all. But the big ones are obviously DC and Marvel. Huge corporations. They do tons and tons of different comics, and it's extremely popular, especially now with all the new movies and stuff, which are just incredible. But there's a few other ones that I like that are not directly competing, I guess, with DC Marvel, but they're still way up there in sales and stuff. Top Cow is one of the ones that I enjoy. They do Wanted, Tomb Raider. They did some Witchblade, stuff like that. They do a lot of I guess, more mature themed books. Usually they're a little darker, a little more realistic. And I like the storylines and the characters that they have with several of those. Dark Horse is one that was pretty popular back through the 80s and 90s for having mainstream titles like Star Wars. They did Alien and Predator and things like that. Dark Horse comes out with a lot of that stuff that's, again, a little more realistic, gritty, things like that. So definitely worth looking into these publications if you're trying to find some cool stories like that. Image is another one. They had Spawn back in the day, Witchblade, and Wildcats, which I don't know if you guys remember at all, but all good stuff. And all the little micro publishers, I'm not trying to downplay them at all, because people are capable of writing all these intricate stories and backgrounds and dealing with all these situations in life that we're trying to deal with as human beings, and they're capable of doing that in a visual representation and making it really, really cool looking as you go through it. So absolutely incredible. I love comics. They're an awesome medium. I wish that I could draw and tell stories in that fashion, but I'm not that kind of guy. Instead, I'm going to sit here in front of a camera and talk to you guys and tell you to go out there and check them out. And hopefully, if you're got the talent to pursue it and follow your dreams and stuff like that, because it's totally worth it. But I hope this was informative in many ways. I hope that you're able to grab the information that I've got here and take it out there into the world and really tear it up. And hopefully, if you're on the fence about collecting and whatnot, this is something where it gives you a little information so you know a better idea of what you're doing. It's not for the super duper rich, if you want to go through and just get the graphic novels and stuff like that, which is a lot of what I do just to get the older stuff. You can go back and read these old stories and the old, pinnacle points in the Batman or the Superman or whatever, and relive that without forking out, thousands of dollars to get those single issues that, nowadays are a little harder to find. But if you're a hardcore collector, the collection value here is incredible. I mean, going through and collecting an entire storyline is really, really cool. And someday, when I have a little extra cash hanging around, that's something that I'm probably going to pursue, just because I really like seeing each cover art and each single issue and the way that it was originally printed and whatnot. That's really cool. But if you got some money, you can get into the graphic novels. You can start collecting those stories. Again, get into the manga and stuff like that. I'm not biased in any way. I love all of it. And the Japanese stories are, because it's a different culture, they have a lot different storylines, different, I guess, issues that they're dealing with, different social issues that they approach things. And that's really cool, seeing different insight. It opens you up and expands your awareness of the world in a way that I don't think many other mediums can. So check them out. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're excited as I am about all this. We live in a pretty awesome time. I mean, we can go online and find all this stuff. Graphic novels, especially, Amazon's incredible for it. Barnes & Noble, you can just go on, type in if you're looking for something, or if somebody says, hey, check this out, I read this one day, or I heard this was really cool, you can go on there and find it. So check it out, follow what you enjoy, and keep at it. Thanks for checking out this episode. Like, subscribe, comment. Any questions you have, throw them down there. I'll be more than happy to address them. Maybe grab a group of them together and do another episode in the future. But anyway, this is Comics for Noobs. Hope this guy gets you guys on the right track and down the road to fun. So we'll catch you later. Peace.